That's the first time I've ever had intro music before. Hi everyone, thanks for coming down. How is everyone? Doing okay? Excited? Yeah, some smiles. Thank you for responding. So thank you for the introduction, and also, of course, thanks to Global Sources and Startup Launchpad for inviting me here today. Going to be talking about lessons from Lean, Startup, Design Thinking, and Agile, right? Stuff that's really sort of key in the product development, product management, product design world, okay? So we're going to be flying a little bit high, some more high-level concepts today, so hope you enjoy the ride. Just a quick word about my company, Why Innovation. So why do we have the expertise to talk about this? We generally work with large organizations to help them with collaboration, becoming more innovative, getting better products out to market, right? So there's a lot of lessons that we can share here with the startup world today. And even though we work mainly with large organizations, we're definitely supporting the startup scene in Hong Kong. So we'll be glad to chat to you afterwards and in future as well if you have any questions on the topic. Okay. So starting off, kind of my feeling. I mean, I'm looking at all the things that I'm holding in my hand. I have an iPad, counting down the time for me there. We are kind of drowning in a bit of a sea of technology today, right? Some of it's really good. I'm sure a few of you are pretty familiar with all the stuff that's up here, DJI, all the stuff that Apple's doing. Really good stuff that people have sort of really taken on board and have become a real, strong product, right? But then we have the not so good stuff, and then there's going to be a topic later today, I think, about the internet of silly things or something. There's a nice Twitter account out there called the internet of, am I allowed to swear here? Internet of shit. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this Juicero thing that came out. I think it was earlier this year, like a $400 juicer where people just realized actually we can squeeze juice out of the bags they supply better using our own hands, okay? So there's a lot of good stories in the hardware world, but there's also a lot of, stories where we have a bit of failure, okay? And we have to ask ourselves, is this the sort of stuff we really want to be doing, bringing out to market? And it's not necessarily our fault. We've been told over the years that innovation is a good thing. Who's familiar with this technology adoption curve? Have you guys seen it before? Show me your hands if you have. Yeah, a couple. Okay, if you haven't, this is the most recent edition from 1991, adapted from some work that was done around the diffusion of innovation in the 1970s, right? Innovation isn't a new thing. People have been talking about it for a long time. About, when you get to the market, you've really got to work with your earlier, your innovators first, people willing to take a risk on something. Then you move to your early adopters, and if you can start to really win the hearts and minds of people there, then we shift into the mainstream, okay? And, all of this sort of talk about innovation and design has been around forever, right? But one challenge that I wanted you guys to think about today, if you aren't already thinking about it, is what's the real cost behind all of this innovation, right? Why are we doing this sort of stuff? What's the greater impact of the products that we create and the things we bring to this world, okay? Might be an uncomfortable question for some of you. I'll leave it with you though, and you don't have to agree with my viewpoint on this, but just wanted to raise this point with you guys. I feel like we're also drowning in a sea of methods as well as hardware that's created. I don't know how many of these things you guys have seen on LinkedIn before, all these methods. This is the way to build products. We use Lean for this. UX is going to change the world. We have to agile everything. This is just one of the methods out there, right? There's a very simple diagram. Whoop. Okay, my slides aren't working. There's plenty of other diagrams out there which show all the different ways we can, use to make our product development, make our startups, make our organizations better. But to be honest, I think it's also, a little bit misleading sometimes. There's no one size fits all. There's no one single approach, which is really going to be the, the perfect cure for all of our problems out there. This is an example of some of the stuff that we do as consultants. I've worked with my clients before to run design sprints where we take an idea and we have a working prototype at the end of 5 days, and we have user feedback and we have people actually code it. Look, these things are great, and the design sprint is a fantastic framework for doing this sort of stuff. But really, I think the key behind all this is how quickly can we learn as a team. Today, in your startups, I mean, you might be small, but I'm sure that you're not working on your own. If anybody is, I'll give you a hug afterwards. But usually, we're working in teams, and not only are we learning about whether our product is a good fit for the market, we're learning about how to work together, we're learning about what really the users want, we're learning about whether or not our strategy is the right thing to go out with, okay? So no matter how you do things, no matter how you approach it, I think it's really about product, the key behind product design and development is about how quickly we can learn whether or not we're doing the right thing, okay? And also we have to get stuff done, and I think the quicker we are able to do things and show a good result, and do something actionable rather than just talking and rather just planning and coming up with strategies, the more we'll be able to realize our vision, right? But there is a question, is faster always better? And I want to come back to that in the presentation a little bit later. Okay, 3 of the most popular ways to learn, right? Just a little joke. You see lots of videos floating around and lots of things on LinkedIn, but actually the best way to learn is actually get hands-on and start doing stuff, right? And that's actually what Lean Startup, Design Thinking, and Agile are about. And I just want to try and share with you from my experience of what the differences are and how they can help you and your startup in achieving the goals that you want to. So design thinking. You hear a lot about it, about, we need to ideate, we need to have empathy for our users, and we need to, really prototype things quickly. A lot of people seem to represent design thinking as just a process, a way of doing things, right? But I think that's really simplifying the beauty behind design. It's a discipline that's been, it's a discipline that's crossed many disciplines and has existed throughout the years, for many years now. And design thinking is actually a vehicle for us, I believe, to really think about the things we are doing and design for not just ourselves, but our customers, and also the context they live in, the greater world, the society out there, right? I really like this quote from the professor of design at University of New South Wales, ex-Carnegie Mellon fellow as well. Design at its best as a potential source of change in how we live and work, and even what we live and work for. Okay, it's a bit idealistic. Don't get me wrong. That's very big picture stuff. But this is really the power of what design thinking can do. We can go through a process and we can iterate and we can trick ourselves in believing that we think we know what the customer wants, or we can really use this sort of mindset to really listen openly and authentically to our customers and think about the wider society as a whole and dream up of products that everybody universally loves, right? Just a thought for you there. So that's where I think the real power of design thinking is, not just in these 5-day sprint kind of workshops, right? Lean Startup. Who's read the Lean Startup book? No one wants to raise their hand. Is that because we're at a startup conference and no one's raised it? You have. Very good. So I'll explain just a little bit about the book then. I think it's a great idea. The book, maybe not so good. I don't know. Thanks for laughing. So it was written by a guy who was in the Silicon Valley, and then before the whole boom really, took off, right? And he was thinking about, I've got this great idea for a new social network, but I don't have a lot of resources, and I'm really interested in finding out whether the market wants this or not. So what's the quickest way and for the least investment that I can validate whether or not my idea works? So the first thing he did was just he bought a domain name, put up a web page, advertised his product. Hey, this is a social network that's going to change your life. If you're interested, put your email here. Click yes to sign up, and then we'll inform you if there's, what the next step is. So for him, this is what he calls the minimum viable product. He hear this thing about MVP, right? Your definition of it may vary, but as per the book, this is his way of finding out with as least effort as possible whether or not his idea was going to be accepted by the market. So he did that. Maybe took him a day maximum. He waited a week to get the results, and at the end of that week, he knew he had enough to go on and actually go then and hire people, right? Start, getting an office, start actually building this social network. So that's the real power behind the lean startup idea. There's a lot of other cool stuff in this book around how you measure metrics, how you pivot and change your idea if it doesn't work. But really behind it, lean startup is a way to validate your ideas as effortlessly as possible. reduce the waste. So lean obviously comes from the Toyota manufacturing school of thought, where they were trying to reduce the waste in the manufacturing process. This is trying to reduce the waste in the ideation process, taking our idea, out to an outcome, and the more we can learn and figure out what to do next, the better. Okay. So still, I think it's a valid read. And we should probably go check it out. There's plenty of material out there on the internet about lean startup. Okay, and lastly, agile. I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of become a bit of a buzzword now. Everybody wants to be agile. They don't just say it without actually knowing what's behind it. Now, this actually comes from the software development world. So just to go a little bit tech nerd on you for a second, I don't know how many of you have worked in large organizations, maybe even small ones, where we do everything very sequentially. We have requirements for something we want to build, we design it, then we do the coding, then we do the testing, then we realize we built stuff wrong, we have to go back over here and do it again, and it takes a long time to come out with the results, right? So Agile was developed as a response to this by a bunch of software programmers who said, you know what? This whole sequential development process, this whole mindset of command and control, a project manager telling other people what to do, it's not going to work, right? We need to have something that's more collaborative, right? That's more iterative, allows us to change more often, okay? And allows us to, really validate and put out good working software every 2 weeks, every 1 week. Even today, companies like Google, Facebook, they're doing it in days, right? Maybe even hours they release new functionality out to their users. So Agile itself, by definition, is a mindset for being more collaborative, okay? Being able to put out working software frequently, okay? And being able to respond to change. This is a really nice diagram to say we value certain behaviors, such as individuals and interactions, over focusing too much on having the best software, the best tools, okay? We focus more on collaborating with the customer over negotiating over terms in a contract. Now, this sort of stuff is going to be difficult to get used to at first because we all, as humans, we all love certainty, we all love safety, we all like to make sure we're getting the right deal. But Agile is asking us to really reflect on ourselves and our teams and ask ourselves, are we really willing to make a change and collaborate with our suppliers and our partners, right? So that's the main benefits of Agile. And I could talk to you for hours about Agile, but I won't bore you to death today. Okay? So what are the 3 things that they have in common besides they all go through this loop and it's in a circle, right? Which is a bit of a joke. Once again, it's about the learning process, okay? I'm putting up something here. I don't know if you guys have studied psychology or any of you have studied education, okay? But there's a lot of material out there where, the act of learning is about doing something, reflecting on that experience, trying to draw some observations, and then moving forward with a new plan. All of these methods we mentioned, design thinking, Lean startup, agile, they will help you do that. Design, thinking about whether or not you've been able to, you're learning whether or not you've captured the hearts of your customer, whether or not you really have been able to create a product that speaks to them, right? Lean startup is about, maybe more about your business idea, your business plan, right? My strategy, the market, have we got the right areas? And agile, again, is about have we been building the right thing and have we been collaborating with people in doing it in the right way? And especially in startups where you might have a small team, that trust and collaboration between your teams is going to be one of the most important things. Maybe it's going to be the competitive advantage for your startup compared to all of the other people out here in this big market, right? Okay. So we spoke a little bit before, or I asked you the question, is faster always better? Okay, you heard, this iterative cycle. How quickly can you get through that loop? The faster you go, the quicker you have results, right? But I just wanted to pull up a whole bunch of very probably small numbers from where you're standing. But this is the quarterly report on the operating profit value share of smartphone operators in the market, right? And I've blown up the main two. Hands up here if you have an Apple device. I see this guy's got an iPad, right? Hands up if you have a Samsung device. Hands up if you have a different device. A few of you didn't put up your hands at all. You don't have smartphones? No? I'm kidding. All right. So they've said that looking at profit, okay, Apple has 83% of the market share. of that profit, right? Samsung has 14%, okay? But who puts out more products, to market? Who releases more things more frequently? I think you kind of know the answer, right? I had to simplify things a little bit, but if you look at the product lineups for Apple and Samsung, okay, Apple still has a huge profit share, even though they only have a few products out, They want to push people towards that line. Samsung, on the other hand, and there's some smartwatch things in there as well, have a massive lineup, different markets, different segments and that, right? But at the end of the day, the profit share is still relatively very low compared to that of Apple's, even though they're releasing more things to market more quickly. So hold on, wait, lean startup and all this sort of stuff are telling us the faster we put things out to market, the better we will be, but yet Apple puts things out once a year and they're still killing it. Why is that, right? And I think you can speed through things and do things quickly, but without a strong product strategy or product vision behind it all, that's going to be a make or break factor in this in this market, right? What I wanted to then talk about is the impact of having, as we're talking about product design and development, right? The impact of having a product vision and how you structure that product vision and that strategy, right? How that can really influence the impact of your product in the market. I just wanted to pull up a few examples from bigger companies out there around their vision and their products, right? You have some that are very big picture. Disney, they just want to make people happy. That's pretty broad. They can usually do that through entertainment and movies and theme parks, right? But I can make people happy by telling jokes as well, right? It's pretty broad. Google, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Yep, they seem to be doing a pretty good job of that. And then they go extremely broad with all the different areas they play in to achieve that vision. This one is very interesting. Coca Cola. Our vision serves as a framework for our roadmap and guides every aspect of our business by describing blah, 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 blah. It's a very detailed vision. They break it down into even 7 categories: people, portfolio, partners, planets, profit and productivity. I was just at the beach the other day and I saw all the plastic bottles washing up on the shore, and I wonder, Coca-Cola is really interested about planet? Anyway, I wanted to bring up these examples, right, to show different ways a vision can be communicated, okay? And that you may have different reactions on it based on what you feel about the brand and how you communicate it too. When we work with clients to coach them on coming up with a vision for their product or their organization, even the business case, we ask them to think about it from different perspectives, and not only for themselves and how they position themselves to their market, but also helping them build something compelling where their team, their startup, their group really wants to get together and buy into this, and they believe in this and they will do it. And I feel like that sort of impact is the reason why companies like Apple are able to have such a strong brand out there, where even though they don't have a lot of products coming out to market quickly, they have a strong brand that's recognized, that's consistent, a strong strategy which helps them be the market leader, okay? They are today. Let's see what happens in 5 years' time, but they are, you can't fault their success today. So how do we create a strong product vision? I like this model. It's a very consulting type model. It's got 4 C's in it, so it's easy to remember. Okay. When you're communicating a vision, the first thing is about context. Can people relate to it? Is it relevant for the time and place? Are we still talking about offline ways, especially when it comes to hardware, of interaction, when we know that almost everything these days is more easily done online, okay? Are people going to buy into that? Okay, the content of your vision, is it more of a plan? Is it more descriptive? Okay, is it something big picture like Disney? We want to make people happy. Is it something very minute and specific like Coca Cola? We want to drive these 7 pillars and blah, 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 blah. Or is it somewhere balanced? Okay, that gives your consumers and the market, and indeed your own employees or your colleagues at the startup, an idea of how well they connect with this. Collaboration, is it shared? This is probably a more internal facing one, but are you going to be that genius product startup person, all the hero type that we hear about and read about these days, and say, this is my vision, you will follow me? Or do you want to be a more collaborative sort of leader on this? Okay, both have its upsides and downsides. And lastly, and I think very importantly, is about credibility. Is it consistent with the market's existing perception of you and the decisions you've made in the past, okay? And addressing this and making it tie into your strategy and making these things come through in your product, having this, these core principles come through in everything from design to development to testing to, the very end of the cycle, it's going to be really key in helping you differentiate your product, okay? By communicating your vision in everything that you do. And no matter whether you're using lean startup or agile or design thinking or whatever, I think it's really good to be thinking about what is that product, what are the key principles, what are the values that we're trying to achieve here, and then you'll be able to really connect with your market from there. Okay. So I know we've flown at a very high sort of conceptual level, and there's going to be some great talks coming up where they'll probably dive deeper into the specifics of how you do this for startups and about the Internet of the Things, right? But I just wanted to paint these three common approaches that we hear a lot about in the industry and say that, look, you don't have to follow them 100%, you don't have to use all of them, but they can help improve the whole product and design and development process. And they are all different ways of being able to learn about what's valuable, okay, and how to achieve this together, okay, whether together means with your colleagues, with the market, with your suppliers, with your customers, okay? And I think that's the key thing, no matter which one of these you seem to gravitate towards more than most, right? And so I hope that after today's conference and the rest of the days, you'll be able to come up with a good product, and don't end up on the scrap heap of those, that we see and hear about all so often in the future, right? And that we can all work towards really use these product design and development techniques to work towards a better future together. I think that's about it for me. I'm happy to take any questions right now if anybody has some. No questions?
You're free to. Wait.
Okay, that's great. Well, you get to have a bit of a break before the next speaker then, all right? So thanks very much. So once again, my name's Daryl Chan. I'm from Y Innovation. We're a collaboration and innovation consultancy. We're based here in Hong Kong. Our office is in Dai Kok Choi. So if you want to come down and visit us, you want to come talk to us about how you might be able to use or actually, apply these approaches in your startup, feel free to come and chat to us. All of our details are there, and we'd love to chat to you. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Please give a big clap. Thank you.